Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@usaprepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Yin's all set. Yin's is a shorter version for Ewins, which I guess is a synonym for y'all, which is a synonym for you all, which is a synonym for yous guys, which is a synonym for those of you. Everyone all set, cocked, locked? Here we go. Your dial set correctly to USA Prepares. Thank you for being with us today. Jason is engineering the broadcast in Minnesota at GCN. I'm Vincent Finelli. With us today, 2 hours, Dr. Richard Allen Miller. Welcome, Rick.
Good morning. I'm sending you right this moment the back and front cover of the new edition of ESP.
Oh,
and I'm trying to get it up onto market for Christmas so that the first 400 are going to be numbered and autographed as first edition of this new edition, which I'm sending you. You're the first person to see what it looks like. It looks similar to Power Tools. It's quite different and has a theme in terms of toward the evolution of consciousness in man.
ESP.
Yes. And I have had to go through it all this last week with Aline, my layout queen, that is, and it's still sending. It's 1.6 megs. It will be, I cannot, I've gone through the book, and I've actually started reading what I wrote a long time ago, and it even surprises me how much information is there and how deep I understand the concept. At the time I wrote that and did that work, both ESP and hypnosis were pseudoscience. Today, everybody understands what instinct suggests and how important it is in our daily lives. And this begins the first stage on why that became a part of science rather than pseudoscience and a no-no word that it was not used in any of the mainline sciences. Hypnosis was considered. This is before Mesmer and all of those people. You see, I have I have maxims on animal magnetism I got in 1970, and that was Martin Eben that wrote that, and the works of Mesmer. And then I studied hypnosis with the Gil Boyne School of Hypnosis and became a certified hypnotherapist so that I could understand what I'm writing now in the Non-Local Mind. This will be the third book that comes out right behind this ESP book, is the idea that your imagination is reality, that hypnosis is an extremely powerful tool that you can use to change into altered states of consciousness where the laws of physics change. Now imagine that level of contribution. We're not even going to go to what's happened with me recently with the holographic concept of reality. I'm going to, because of a paper that came out last week, probably be given a Nobel Prize. I'm what's called a writer. A writer is that when a person is nominated for a Nobel Prize, if they're quoting their foundation paper on that Nobel Prize to earlier work, that earlier work, which usually is a scientist that was not recognized and deserves the Nobel Prize, as the first to think of it. And that's what's going to happen with Gariev and Popov and this new paper on how you can repair cells that have been damaged by X-rays.
So, Rick, how does one repair damaged cells? Because pretty much everyone in the United States is...
That's the latest paper out of Russia and how they're doing it now. And remember, it was originally fullerenes and what we called fullerene water that Ukraine was suggesting to help Fukushima. And the people in Japan ignored it. And now we're now starting to see how important the buckyball is, what structured water is. And I've already written a comic book, manga, on structured water for children that has been approved by National Geographic for Children in UK. And what I'm needing right this moment is an artist that can take my ideas and put them into a manga comic for use in National Geographic. I'm coming across on all sides at once, and I'm getting tired because of the crap I'm going through. You should have the new cover now. It just went out to you. It should be on your computer.
Okay, I will.
There you go. That's right.
I will fetch it.
Commercial coming up.
Yeah, I'll fetch it during the commercial break because I don't have enough bandwidth here in the middle of CenturyLink communications.
Welcome to our world of everything is breaking. My computer this morning locked up, and I had to reboot before I could even talk to you. I've got all the different articles you wanted up. When I loaded them, the ads, the extras, the YouTube crap, all of it locked up my computer. That's what's happening today with trying.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's take a side detour. Get my hammer out. Actually, I'm going to get my sledgehammer out. Okay. So here it is. I have been under attack by a company in Utah, and that company's name is Harvest Right. I am livid, fit to be tied, annoyed, angry, and I'm going to expose what they're doing. So I've seen these guys at preparedness kinds of conventions. They have not been to ours, but I've seen them, and they sell this device that's over $2,000 to freeze-dry food. So you can grow it in your garden, you can freeze-dry. This is not a commercial. I'm annoyed with these guys. Here's why. I've invited them to be on the air years ago, and they just ignore me. And that's okay. They don't have to be on the air. But what I don't like about these guys is they attack my screen and my computer and chew up my bandwidth with all kinds of commercials. So if I go to, and I went to the Drudge Report yesterday, and when I went to the Drudge Report, what happened was I got ads nonstop from Harvest Right. I go to do a search on something, ads from Harvest Right. Everywhere I seem to go, I get plastered with these ads. I don't want to buy their product. I don't want to see their ads. And so I was so annoyed yesterday that I looked them up on the internet. I got their phone number and I called them up. And I said, how do I stop your ads from attacking me and my computer? I'm sick of it. How do I stop it? And the gal who answered, she was kind of stunned because no one had ever called to say they had a problem with their advertisements. Well, I do. You know, I don't mind an advertisement here and there, but I'm sick of being bombarded everywhere I go on the internet with Harvest Right. I am not going to buy your product. I'm not going to do it. And if I were going to do it, I would not now because of the harassment. That's my perception. These are my opinions. And if you'd like to sue me, please do. And we'll talk about it more. Have your lawyers call me. Have them. And we'll talk about it. But it's not going to be fun. And I'm not going to stop. I'm sick of these nonstop Harvest Right advertisements. So there you have it. So lock up my computer. It's annoying. Who do they think they are? And why do they think that I'm interested in their product? Why? What makes them think that? So that's my feeling about harvest rate. Now, class, when someone goes after an advertiser on the radio, it's a kiss of death. It absolutely is. Because advertisers pay for the broadcast. Well, not here, because I wouldn't allow Harvest Right to advertise on USA Prepares. Because I don't think their methods are very nice. I mean, do they say to the Drudge Report, listen, we want nonstop coverage. We want every screen that gets refreshed, we want nonstop Harvest Right ads? Is because we want to sell these multi-$1,000 freeze dryers? Is that what this is all about? I am not signing up for this. So that's my thought about that advertisements. And I'm sick of the nonstop calls, which have spoofed phone numbers. So I'll see a local phone number come up on caller ID, and I'll think, well, it's one of my neighbors. And it's somebody telling me, well, this is very important. This is about your Visa or MasterCard. Well, nobody calls about Visa or MasterCard both in the same sentence when it's a bank. They don't do that. It's either Visa or MasterCard. It's not both. Okay. So I'm sick of that. And by the way, where is our protection from the big G, the government corporation that's supposed to be protecting consumers, if you will? Where is that? And how does this no-call list work? I tell you, it doesn't work. Rick, you getting calls from these people harassing you nonstop? Did I lose Rick? Hey, Rick, you there?
Yes, I am, finally. Yes, I'm having trouble trying to get everything loaded so I can talk coherently. I'm being attacked also, right this moment.
Don't you despise these pop-up videos and audios?
It is the newest form of internet, and it's wrong. And everybody is using it, and YouTube is compliant. So is Facebook. Facebook is just as bad. I mean, it's terrible what's happening.
It used to be you could put your YouTube video up there and it would run.
That's right. Now you have to watch a commercial before you can get it in, and it will interrupt the thing to do a second commercial. It's worse than television. It is worse. It is worse. And in terms of minutes of advertising, if you look at the percentage of advertising versus the percentage of content, YouTube is out of control. They put as many as 9 commercials. We would strip them out. Ron Gibson would strip them out on his YouTube channel for USA Prepares and for what really happened. And YouTube would put 9 commercials back in. And then we used to get comments on YouTube like, what's up with you guys? Yeah, so you say commercial free, but they're not our commercials. YouTube sticks them in automatically. It's YouTube. So we used to get beat up. Ron Gibson pulled all the comments from his channel. So, if you want to beat us up, you'll have to find some other way. But, and that goes for Mike Rivero as well. So the comments from Mike Rivero show what really happened, and USA Prepares, the comments have been disabled for quite a while now. That's because of abuse. That's abuse from the trolls, and it's getting tougher. And one day we're all going to be gone. Now what are we going to do? Class Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us, and he's a physicist. Rick, I refreshed, and it's a big country. We're trying to get halfway across it at the speed of light, and I still don't have the cover, but, it'll be here soon, I guess, sometime within the next hour and a half. Just erased everything. I can't believe what's happening to me. I'm under attack right this minute. I can't even close anything. I'm going Control-Delete, and I'm...
You need my hammer?
Go do something while I try to fight myself into getting on this.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Tomorrow, class, I'm going to be,
Julie?
Hour number 2 will be just me.
Everything.
And I'm going to be sharing with you some tips about plumbing. Things that, do you have a toilet that leaks? And I'll tell you some simple fixes, and I'll tell you why toilets seem to leak. I'm also going to tell you how to repair that easily, and what to buy and what not to buy. I'm also going to tell you about wiring problems within your home. Simple things that happen that cause electrical outlets to stop working. So if you have a room, as a matter of fact, what happened yesterday, well, not yesterday, a couple of days ago, I was invited to one of our instructors' homes, and he said he has this problem. He's been trying to diagnose why the outlet doesn't work in one room. But it's not just one outlet. It was the overhead fan didn't work, some wall outlets didn't work, and some switches didn't work. And they used to work. And he was wondering what happened. So I told him what to look for. And so he took all the receptacles out of the wall, just unscrewed the two screws that hold the receptacles and the switches and pulled them out. So you could see all the wires. He didn't disconnect anything. Everything was connected. And he was wondering, why don't these things work? Because they're all connected. And I'll tell you what happened. We were able to diagnose the problem within a minute or two or three at the most. And so I'll tell you what happened and why. It'll take a little longer than the seconds I have right now. But that's tomorrow, hour number 2. And if you have some suggestions of better ways of doing things, better than the ways I'm suggesting, or better than traditional ways, I'd love to hear them. And you'll certainly be able to call. So I'll give you that number right now. It's 866-582-9933. That's between the hours of 9 and 11 a.m. Central. Okay, that's in the morning. And one other thing I'd like you to do. I'd like you to, as homework, if you're going to be in class tomorrow and listen to these simple fixes, I'd like you to have a mental image of what I'm talking about. So the way to do that is to go to the internet and look up toilet, okay? And click on images and look at how a toilet is fastened to the floor and how the plumbing is connected. That way you'll have a mental image. The other thing I'd like you to look at is a wall outlet, and look at the images of how wall outlets are wired. You'll have that mental image as well. Or keep them on the screen as I discuss it, and that'll help you. Rick, you back?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay. So speaking of plumbing, I'd like to share something with you, and you mentioned structured water. Now, for a long time we had been talking about structured water. We haven't talked about it recently, but one of the ways of structuring water, as I understand it, is to have the water come down a spiral, like in a funnel, so that it just doesn't glop into the funnel.
It counteracts the Coriolis forces of the earth. And so the Coriolis is the way water runs down a sink. If, because of gravity and the spin of the earth, and it changes northern and southern hemisphere because the earth is on a tilt, and it wobbles. And that pole shift is why we're going to have a pole shift, is because of the wobble. The Hopi used to do a ritual called the ritual of the wobble egg. It is the earth that wobbles when it spins on its axis. And that wobble causes a perturbation that at some point reaches a point of no return where everything flips over to the other side, and the pole has been reversed. This is on NASA's site. They have a demonstration of how they have something that's wobbling as it's rotating, and how at some point it flips. This flip is a natural occurring phenomena that has happened over various centuries and is semi-predictable. It is after 24,000 years. We're right at that moment right now for another flip of our axis.
We'll be right back. Dr. Richard Allen Miller and I have been talking about structured water. So, Rick, when you pour water down the drain in North America, the water spirals down the drain if you have a sufficient amount of water, right? And in that spiraling, doesn't it go counterclockwise in North America?
That's correct. That's because of Coriolis forces. So to restructure the water, when you pour it into your mug or whatever thing you're going to drink out of, you pour it in the opposite direction to restructure the water from the forces that are on it at this moment. That means you pour it into your glass clockwise, and you use a funnel where you have the water hit the funnel in such a way that it hits the funnel at an angle and goes into the glass the opposite at going down the drain. That alone will restructure a minimum of 60% of the water going into that cup. A simple process that changes everything in the way that water metabolizes in your body. Just that alone makes a difference. And that's one of the most recent discoveries of what water is and why water is has memory.
So I looked up structured water, and there are devices that you can buy for an enormous amount of money, at least in my
that's what it's all about, money. Yeah.
Right.
Simple.
So here's what one of them I saw, I believe, does. I didn't see it operate, but I saw it had a base, like I'm talking about a base like a 1960s vintage blender. So it had a motor, an AC motor with a cord that you'd plug into your wall outlet, and an on-off switch that would start this motor. And then there was a pitcher that was attached to, you just set this pitcher on top of this motor base. And I believe that there's no real shaft that comes out of the motor that drives with a seal, a spinning shaft with a liquid-tight seal like a water pump. There's nothing like that. What I believe this thing had was a magnet attached to the vertical shaft of this motor base, like a blender.
Yeah.
And then another a piece of ferrous material inside this pitcher, and the ferrous material would magnetically, we'll call it bond or attract to the magnet on the motor, and as the motor would spin this ferrous material that would start a whirlpool action in the pitcher. So it would look just like something in a blender spinning around, and it would cause this vortex. And it was a device that was to structure water. Now I understand that, and that kind of makes sense based on what you said. But I happened to be in Menards a couple days ago, and I saw in the plumbing department a device to attach hot water heaters to the water pipes of a house. And they had a couple different kinds. They had a braided one with a plastic liner that could sustain the temperatures of a hot water heater. They had another kind that was stainless steel that had ribs in it that you could bend, which was flexible as well. And then they had a third kind. And the third kind, I believe, would adapt to what you're talking about. And that's where this question's going. So this third type is a piece of copper pipe. And it's flexible, but you can't bend it and rebend it and rebend it. You can bend it once. And what it has, it looks like BX cable or armored cable that you would use for electrical wiring. It had a spiral copper exterior. And I'm looking at an image of this, and it's called a water heater connector. And it's probably around $12 right now. And you can get them in like a foot long or 15 inches long or 18 inches long. And it's spiral on the inside and spiral on the outside. And I'm thinking that if you adapted a piece of copper, it's copper, if you adapted a smaller diameter piece of copper inside that, and then you poured water between the inside copper pipe and the outside copper pipe, it would have to spiral around and around and around. And so for $15, you could make your own structured water device. Now, would that work, Rick? What I'm talking about?
Yeah, that's anytime you turn water against the Coriolis force, it actually restructures. Just the way you pour it into a cup makes the absolute difference on whether the water goes to the urine or bladder or it goes into the cell. It's as simple as that.
Okay, so is it possible, Rick, then to just cut right to the chase of this whole thing and go to the junk store and buy a blender that has
there you go. That's how you do it. The blender usually or centrifuge has to be for days in terms of getting a 99% restructure, but 60% is for sigma and error coefficient, and there you are. That's all you need. Is 60% makes more than half the water now accessible to the body.
So really, all we have to do is find a clockwise rotating blender. I don't know. I haven't checked ours, but
Or
go in
just
the
a
next.
funnel. The way the water goes into your tub.
Mm-hmm.
The way, you don't even have to structure it in the line. Just the way it's going into the tub, into the sink, into your body.
Okay, here's a real simple way of doing this. So we have a Pure water filtration canister here in the kitchen, and there is a stainless steel spigot, and you turn this lever, and it opens the valve, and the water comes flowing out. I believe I could very easily get a piece of stainless steel, a strip of stainless steel, put it into the end of the spout, and have it rotate clockwise. I'm talking about taking a strip of steel, maybe a half an inch long, quarter of an inch wide, and, 20 thousandths of an inch thick, maybe 30 thousandths, and twist it so that it has a slight twist in the clockwise direction, stick it in the end of that spout, sterilize it, and then every time I turn on that spout, the water will come out spinning clockwise. Will that do the job?
Yes.
Okay. That's what I want to do. Because that's easy. That's really easy, and it'll work every day. Every time I get water out of that ProPure water filter. That sounds good.
As simple as that, and what you've just done is made the water more accessible to your body functions. It's simple. Water is perhaps the single most important molecule in our life, and it's everything. It's life. Water is life, if you want to look at it like that. And just changing the way you enters your body makes all the difference in health, longevity, and quality of life. Simple, simple, simple.
Okay. Speaking of simple, I remember when our boys were in Cub Scouts. And I remember making, with our son, a Pinewood Derby car. Did you ever do that, Rick?
Yes,
Okay.
I did, actually.
Okay. I'd like to share with...
boy scientist, boy mechanic.
Right. Well, in 1953, the first Pinewood Derby was held in California by a Cub Scout pack. And the idea was you could take wood and you could take 4 nails to be axles and have 4 wheels. And the idea was, can you make your car, your little Pinewood car, with certain standards that you could not exceed, limitations of design, beat running downhill by gravity, strictly gravity. There's no engine, there's no power, there's no sail. It's just strictly gravity, downhill race. Could you make your car have an elapsed time faster than all the other cars? And that's all you had to do. To win the race, yours just had to go down this slope. And so there was a competition to make your car go faster. Well, later, the Boy Scouts sold a kit, and it was sold through BSA, Boy Scouts of America, and this is when Boy Scouts were really worth paying attention to. You got a block. So this kit, I think, when we got ours, was $2.50, and it had a block of wood, which was it was pine, and it had no knots in it, so it was clear, and no knots. And everybody's was the same, a clear piece of wood, but there were slight differences in the weight because of the trees that were used, but it was a little over 5 ounces. And you got 4 plastic wheels. They're all the same. 4 nails that were kind of like nails that you would use for something for finishing. And 4 wheels. So you got 4 wheels, 4 nails, and a block of wood. 9 pieces. And the idea was you could shape this block of wood if you wanted. You could make it a wedge, or you could leave it the way it was, or you could modify the block of wood. You could use a handsaw. You could use carving tools. You could make it look fancy. You could make it look sleek. You could make it look like a just a box or a rectangle, or you could make it look like a Formula Racer, but you had to use this piece of wood. And you had to use the 4 nails and the 4 wheels. The idea was, what can you do with just that and make yours go faster than everybody else's? What can you do? So you could whittle it with a hand knife, you could use bandsaw, you could use carving tools. And so our son and I built one, a father and son project. And that's the way it's intended to be. It's not intended to be just a Cub Scout trying to figure out gravity and friction and kinetic energy, all by himself. And you're allowed to do it with dad or a parent or an adult. But what it's not supposed to be is the adult, going out to the lathe and making it for the Scout. It's supposed to be a joint project. Well, can you tell us, Rick, what you tried with your Pinewood Derby car to make it run faster than others? And I'll share with you what we've done and things that we found that work. Because the reason I'm going through all this is because these are the same laws of physics that apply to everything every day.
It's called drag, and what you want is the weight or brake horsepower, cross-sectional frontal area of the thing. The smaller the front end, the faster it would go, and the longer would set up a bow wave of air that reaches a maximum. There's only a certain speed, like a boat going through water, that can go through water in terms of how long the boat is for the wave, the bow wave, and the drag. And that's where your cross-sectional area is brought to a minimum. That's why race cars always had a point on it. And then they were streamlined. They were small, and you put your head down so you didn't have a drag with the air on your head, and you put your head inside the canopy so that it could have less drag on the air, and off you go. I also used to add grease to the wheel to make that actually less friction so that the bearings were working more properly.
All right, hold that thought. We'll be right back. So, class, we're talking about the Pinewood Derby, and this is a race that Cub Scouts are involved in. And it's not, the point of this discussion is not about just the father and son interaction or the parent and son interaction. It's about learning about how things work on this planet, where you'd learn about friction. You'd learn about the coefficient of drag. You'd learn that there is a relationship between the frontal area of this little race car that's just 7 inches long, would have, based on its shape. And when you go to the eliminations, the actual race day, you'll see all of these different designs. And some of them are just beautiful. I mean, painted by, well, heck, the fathers are machinists. And, and you can see that the child didn't do that. But, so you get to see a lot of different things. And I'll tell you what we found, Rick. I had a stopwatch. We had one of those, they called them in Virginia church tables, which really meant folding table with like a sort of like a vinyl Formica type top. And so we put it on an angle that we thought that would be similar to the angle that we would be experiencing on race day. And I had a stopwatch, and our son and I would try different things. So we would time it from the start, the launch, until it crossed the finish line on just putting a box under this table on one end to have it slope downward. And so we tried things like, we tried grease. We tried, how does that compare to like a lanolin, which would be used for reloading? You'd lubricate the shell cases, the brass cases, with lanolin. We compared that to Mobil 1. We compared different weights of engine oil. Okay, and then we compared it to
down a hill.
Graphite. Graphite. Are you there, Rick? We compare it to graphite. Graphite worked the best. Now, maybe graphite wasn't available when you tried yours, but graphite was vastly superior. And the difference, having your car perform 1% better than the others was the difference between winning and losing.
What
1%.
happened to a more simpler way of life?
Right.
I miss the go-kart part of not having the pressure and the demands of performance. Just playing go-karts, you're bringing back memories of a much simpler way of living.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're talking about the 60s, for sure, maybe even the 50s. And in the 1960s, I built a go-kart. I built a go-kart out of a lawnmower engine, Briggs & Stratton.
I built a lot of go-karts out of boxes.
That's what I'm talking about.
Just little cardboard boxes. I remember doing that, and now it's different.
Well, okay, so that's...
Even the cardboard boxes are different. Good gosh. I mean, it's crazy.
Rick, so you and I are from an era where we used what we had and we were innovative. And that's kind of why that's why we are the way we are today. That's why we like certain things.
Down and folded, mutilated, or otherwise spindled. I mean, I don't understand this. I'm completely right. That's a thing. Julie and I started laughing. The language of Gen X is right, and isn't that right? Right. And the way they talk is different, and I had to go back to a more simpler way of being.
Okay, so our son, talking about the young people, our son asked this girl out, and so she summarily shot him down. Boom, that was over. So he had her cell phone number, so he sent her a picture of dinner. He said, "This is what you're missing." I approve of all these things that our children do in response to this rude. I mean, what's wrong with saying, you know what? Thank you anyway, but no. They've got to be shot down with like a howitzer.
Well, you sent me, for example, a link that talked about a fast-moving snowstorm that caused a 50-car pileup. Now,
right.
I'm watching the way Gen X's drive on what we call tailgating because everybody's in a hurry. And I watched how there's a 5-car pileup because everybody is following too close to each other because we're all in a hurry.
All right, let's talk about that when we come back. I've got some comments about that, and I'm not sure what the right reaction is. I don't know if the reaction is I should take my pistol right out of my belt and put it on my dashboard. I don't, that would be
why
branded.
We have a cannon mounted on the front and rear of my car.
Let's talk about these things, and we'll get back to the Pinewood Derby because I want to talk about some of the friction issues because they affect miles per gallon in your automobile. We'll be right back with Dr. Richard Alan Miller. And if you'd like to go to his website, that's richardalanmiller.com. Richard, A-L-A-N, Miller, M-I-L-L-E-R. You all set? Hour number 2 of USA Prepares. Dr. Richard Alan Miller's with us. And Rick mentioned the drivers are really aggressive, really dangerous and careless behind the wheel. And the problem is sometimes they're behind you. And when they're behind you and they ride your tail, it can be really dangerous. So a couple of days ago, I was going to the big city, and nobody's behind me. 2 lanes, 1 lane each way, 1 lane going, 1 lane coming. And 55-mile-an-hour zone, I'm just doing 55. And out of nowhere, this guy is right on my rear bumper. And so I didn't think he saw me because he must have been flying. And so I tapped my brake to just show him my brake lights. And then he swerves. He swerves because he thinks that he's going to crash into me. And I raised my fist so he could see it through the rear window. Like, really? You want to do this? And then I shook my finger as if a school teacher were disciplining, a child in the 1950s. Like, no, don't do that. And then he put his foot to the floor, passed me on a double yellow line, flew in front of me, almost nicks the front of my car because he pulls in too fast and takes off. Now, if the guy had his four-way flashers on, I'd think, geez, must be an emergency. And I would have moved over. But I wasn't doing anything that was preventing him from obeying the traffic ordinances. But I happen to find some jerk like this every single time. No exaggeration. Either on my way to Springfield or on my way back. It's always a truck. It's always some jerk in a truck with a load that's not tied down, or a truck with a trailer, and I'm approaching where he's trying to pull into the road, and he waits and waits and waits until it's too late to pull out in front of me, and then he pulls out in front of me. And then he goes slowly because he's got this big load, and then he turns off, a mile later. That's the kind of nonsense that happens every time I go to Springfield. And the last time was just a couple days ago, and had our son and Mrs. Finelli in the vehicle, and it was getting near quitting time in the afternoon. And I said, I really don't want to be in Springfield. These people are just too crazy. I'm not interested in being crashed into because these guys are on their phone. And that's what I'm seeing. I am seeing people driving through the Walmart parking lot on their phone, pulling into the Walmart parking lot, getting into their vehicle from Walmart and starting to leave, and they're on their phone trying to get out of the parking lot. They are not paying attention. And I got to tell you, I don't know what my reaction is going to be if the vehicles that I try to maintain to keep in perfect running condition, if somebody crashes into my hard work. I don't know what I'm going to do. I may decide to tune up them and their vehicle, help them. I may. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I keep a half-inch breaker bar, 25 inches long, right next to my hand when I'm driving. It's right along the seat. I mean, I'm not holding on to it, but it's the first thing I can reach on the way out of the driver's seat. I'm annoyed. It's crazy. It was never like this. It's dangerous. Rick, is it you're at a severe disadvantage because you're driving a sports car that's low, and you don't have the vertical visibility in a Datsun 280Z.
There are two kinds of drivers out there when I drive my Z. The ones that respect my old car as being priceless and classic and honor the fact that I'm driving an old car and give me the respect of being safe around me. And then there are those that don't care about anything but what they're doing. And that's what I've noted. It's interesting. And so I drive my 280Z less and less because there are more and more of the latter drivers. And I've noted that, and I don't want to put my Z or myself at risk. And the kinds of people don't give a darn about who you are, or what you're trying to do. And age, there's no respect for age with the new generation. I've got a grandson that is, I'm disappointed in the way my daughter raised him, because he should not be like that, where he could disrespect someone my age, even if I'm wrong.
I have never have I ever raised my voice to either of my parents, even if I thought I was right.
Well, if I did that, I would have been slapped across the room. My father wouldn't tolerate it. When we sat at the table, there are four of us for dinner or breakfast, and we always ate together. That was different than what's today, where everything's on the fly. It's a different universe. It's a different world. It's different rules. And value systems aside, I can complain, but I have to live with it.
Well, that's something that I've heard a lot of seniors say. Well, it's the way of the world. That's the way it is today. You just have to, go along with it.
Like China, you always respected your elder because they had to go through more bullshit than you did. It isn't that you knew better. You don't, actually. And value systems aside, there's a need for respect for age. Just the fact that they've had to go through that much more than you have. And so that part has been lost in the Gen X generation, and you can see it in the way they drive and the way they behave in stores. Just in public. It's a new world, and everybody is angry. And this is not a good, healthy way of being. And I don't know what to do. I long for a more simple life. And even my life has gotten more complicated in what I'm trying to do and get accomplished. It's like a war zone.
Our son works on vehicles. People found out that he knows what he's doing as a mechanic, and I trained him as a mechanic. So he's had some formal training at the university, but for the most part, it's things that I've taught him and things that he's learned on his own. So he's beyond a shade tree mechanic. He has diagnostic tools and lots of specialized tools. I'm talking about tools to work on front wheel hubs, engine tools for compressing piston rings, valve installation tools, valve keeper tools. I mean, all kinds of brake tools, a lot of tools. And most of them he bought they're either new or used, whichever was a better tool for the money. And so people show up with their vehicles, and I got to tell you that the young generation does not understand that you need to change the oil. They don't understand that. So to compensate for their ignorance, automobile manufacturers will tell you when you need to change the oil, because people, and then they don't think it, they think it's just a hint that you need to change your oil, but they don't. So they'll go 20, 30, 40, 50, 100% more miles than the vehicle was intended to go before an oil change. So they're destroying their vehicles. They are. I know of a situation where a person, the oil light came on a vehicle, and the person said, "Well, I guess I should check the oil, soon," and didn't, and kept driving it, and the engine blew because that oil light meant no oil pressure, none. Boom, new engine time. Seriously. So there's a lot of things that people don't know, and one thing that people don't know is they don't know that they need to read the manual that came with the vehicle to tell them how things work, because they don't know. Sometimes it's hard just to figure out how to use the controls on the dashboard to turn the heat up or down, because, well, there's left heat, there's right heat, and then there's the air conditioning compressor, and then there's the defrost, and then do you want the heat to come up, down, out the vents, or a combination thereof? I mean, it's really more complicated than it used to be, which was, do you want the fan speed on low, medium, or high? Pick one. And do you want the temperature hotter or colder? Just slide this lever or turn the knob. That was it. And it worked great. Not anymore. Now it's a computer. Now it's a computer that tells you. And even a car that's 15 years old, if you have a seat that folds down in the back, like in a station wagon or a SUV, and you can fold the seat down, and if it's not folded down, a light will come on the dashboard telling you that the seat's not locked. That's a lot of computer sensors to figure all this out. So we have built a monster that we can't live with. And even Scotty Kilmer talks about new cars. They are not replaceable. There's no room to work on.
They're a lot different than that go-kart.
Okay, so our son said, "Hey, you want to come out in the shop?" It was late last night. He was working late. When I say late, I mean like 9 o'clock. And so we went out into the garage, and he had a car apart. And all his customer wanted was to replace the headlights. Okay, so it had these headlights that are these clear plastic acrylic headlights, and they were so cloudy they didn't work. So this is just replaced 2 headlights on a large American-made SUV. So I went into the shop, and the bumper's off. Okay, so everything from the hood down that was exposed, all the exposed surfaces from the hood down, were removed from the front of this SUV. Now, the hood came down to the top of the headlights. So it wasn't like the hood came down, grill and hood combined. No. So what happened was this one piece of plastic, the front bumper cover, it's plastic, came off. And this thing was at least 30 inches tall, at least, almost 3 feet tall, and the full width of the car from the tip of the front wheel around the front to the tip of the other front wheel. This thing was huge. It would be hard to carry this piece of plastic. And when you take this off, then you can replace the headlights. So I looked it up. What does it cost to replace the headlights on a GM Arcadia? $388 each. Now, with tax, that's the estimate on RepairPal on the internet. We're talking $400 with tax each. $800 to replace 2 headlights. I'm not exaggerating. And it's hours and hours of removing parts to do this. We have allowed this monster to continue. And people will look at these cars and say, now that's cool. That's really, really neat. Just try to repair one. Just try to find the water pump. Just try. So, Rick, I just thought I'd floor the class here. So I looked up what is the cost to replace a water pump. I just picked that out of the air during the last segment. For a Chevrolet or General Motors Arcadia, it's an SUV. It's a large SUV.
The new one.
Yeah. Well, 2008. I just picked 2008. Replace the water pump on a 2008 Arcadia is between $588 on the low end to $799 on the high end.
A water pump?
A water pump. Now, yes, I'm very serious. I just looked it up.
That's crazy.
Well, okay, let's say something else. So how about, I know for a fact that you have replaced windshield wiper blades, and I know for a fact that you bought refills. Not that we've ever talked about this. We've never talked about this, but I know for a fact that you've replaced windshield wiper blades on your Datsun 280Z.
Yeah.
And you used to be able to buy windshield wiper blade refills, and you could get 2 of them for like 99 cents to $1.99 for both of them. Okay?
That's right.
Okay. And yes, and it would take maybe 2 minutes each. Maybe. Okay. Probably like 1 minute for both. Okay. So today on that 2008 GMC Arcadia, to replace the windshield wiper blades, if you hired somebody and he brought it to a guy to do it, between $56 and $89.
That's unbelievable.
Well, it's the truth. So,
That's Mopar. That's the concept of designed obsolescence over DeLorean, and the concept of making it the best you can so it never wears out.
When you replaced the windshield wiper blades or the refills on your Datsun, it had a stainless steel windshield wiper. Well, we won't call it a refill. We'll talk about the metal part. Okay, that was stainless steel. Now, some of them were anodized black, some of them were painted black, and some of them were less stainless steel looking. Okay, so you kept that part. All you did was replace the rubber part for either $1 or $2. Okay? Not anymore. Now you replace the whole wiper assembly, not the arm, but the blade, the stainless steel or the plastic, whatever it is. You replace that whole thing now. Actually, replace both of them if it has to, and it's way more expensive. So we're filling our landfill not with rubber parts that can decompose, but with plastic parts that can't. And we don't recycle them; we just throw them in the trash, right? I mean, that's the way of That's what Americans do. We throw them in the trash. So I just wanted to share with the class, if you buy a new car, I'm going to say it very gently, you have more money than brains. You have no idea what you're doing. And 28% of new vehicles do not come with a spare tire. 28%. So what do? So do you think you're ever going to get a flat? Have you ever gotten one? Or I don't know anyone who hasn't gotten one. Everyone's had flat tires. It just happens because they're jerks on the road that let nails fall out of their pickup truck beds. People don't strap loads down. There's all kinds of bits of sharp objects in the road. We get flats all the time. We get so many flats that we have our own tire changing machine and our own wheel balancer. And we have all the we probably have 100 pounds of wheel weights, brand new, here at the farm. We have tire patches that are 3 inches in diameter. So you take the tire off and you use a tool, and we have the tool that grinds off the rubber so it's flat, and then we have the rubber cements, the different kinds of cements, to put the tire patch in the inside of the tire. Why? Because we get so many flats. Why do we get flats? Because of carelessness. Is it our carelessness? No. It's the carelessness of everybody around us. And so that's why I keep saying that we're going down, and it's the sum of all individual stupidity and all individual greed. There are a bunch of Amish guys working on a roof at a business. And you know they're Amish because they wear these wide-brimmed hats and they all dress the same. Looks like they got together and said, okay, we're going to wear the same thing we wore yesterday and the day before and the day before and the day before, and we're going to look just like that. And we got this job. We're going to go up on the roof, and we're going to put this new roof on. And don't worry about the nails because we don't have rubber tires that are they're inflatable. We just have these hard rubber tires that don't get flat. So just sweep the nails right off into the parking lot. That's what they did. So if you wonder why you're getting flats, that's just one tiny, tiny, tiny example. Because of carelessness. Well, they don't care about flats because they don't get flats. Because they don't have pneumatic tires. We'll be back. So, Rick, when we were growing up, if you wanted to get a pair of shoes or sneakers, you'd go to the shoe store and there'd be a guy there that
No, there was only one place. There was Penny's. There was only one kind of tennis shoe.
Uh-huh. But there was some...
changed shortly into... I don't even know what to buy for tennis shoes now because there's cross trainers, there's deck shoes, there's the... it's way more complicated today.
Well, I tried a couple days ago to buy a pair of sneakers, all-purpose sneakers for the farm, and all I could, people are not buying sneakers based on durability. I want, durable. I want ones that I can, hop on the tractor if I want, or I can, walk around and not have things poked through the bottom.
Some are made from leather. They used to make them out of leather,
and they'd last 10 years.
Yeah. Or not, right. Because I played tennis, but, I would wear the toe out because of the way I would serve my tennis ball on the court by dragging my toe. But, it was Penny's. Penny's or Sears had tennis shoes, and that's it, and there was only one kind of tennis shoe. And today, it's completely different in terms of tread, holes, gripping soles, height of the tennis shoe. You said a deck shoe is different now than, working on a ship, what they call a deck shoe for working on a ship's deck.
Right.
It's complicated.
Well, I was at Academy, I think it's Academy Sports or just Academy, I don't know, great big box store, and they had aisle after aisle after aisle after aisle of sneakers, and they had all different flavors. There was lime
and colors now too. It used to be white. Now they're different stripes and this, and it's crazy.
Right. And so I left without any. So I actually went to the clearance section because I thought, what I'm interested in, I don't see. Maybe they've had some left over that nobody wanted because they're made out of leather. And they literally had a pair of boots. They were not my size, that were half price, but they were leather. I mean, they must have been, discarded stock or something, or hidden stock. And somebody said, what are these? Never saw anything like this before. And they were made out of leather, and they were like $59 or something, but they weren't my size. And I would have bought those because they were durable. But I don't think we're buying things we're not even considering durability now.
And they never have your size. That's the one thing that's missing. They have. Yeah.
I wanted size 10, and they had 9.5, and they had 10.5, and 11.5, and 12.5, and 7.5, but they didn't have 10. I said, I made the comment, and I think it kind of wasn't very polite. I said something like, I saw these red, really weird red color sneakers. Like, who would wear these?
Yeah,
who would wear these? Well, that would be somebody running down the street with a TV. That's who would be wearing these. I didn't make any friends, at this store, and my wife was looking at me like, why do you look like that? I said, like, I'm taking it all in. I'm stunned.
It's a changing world.
Well, I saw this Yeti coffee cup, and so I'm looking at this coffee cup, and I'm thinking, gosh, that looks kind of nice. $40 for a coffee cup. That's not for a set. That's for one. And yeah, it was better than the average Chai-Com coffee cup, but it wasn't 10x better.
What is that accent that you have where you pronounce it coffee?
Coffee?
No, you say coffee.
Coffee. C-O.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Well,
language.
that's what. Okay, that is a Cosa Nostra accent.
I'm Italian. Oh no. Oh.
Yeah, that's just before we during the planning meetings, that's we'd have coffee.
There it is.
and then,
man, Italian. I love it.
But after we'd have those planning meetings, then we'd have to retire for a couple of weeks. Relax. Go to another state. Put our feet up, relax, and act like we're somebody we're not. Yeah, that's what we do.
It's an interesting new world, brave new world. I am amazed and appalled both. It's just and the language, the dialogue, the new slang, the new hip, the new. I don't know. I guess this is me getting old.
When I send someone an email, it's one line per sentence, okay? And I skip a line for the next sentence. And I try to make it very simple. Each sentence is short, to the point, complete, and I don't leave out vowels or words or adjectives or adverbs or verbs or nouns. Like, they're all in there. That's the way I try to communicate.
But what's an emoji then?
Well, I've never used one. I have never used, and the reason is, I have a lexicon that is large enough to say, I know the word unhappy. I know the word happy. I don't need to have a picture to denote my mood. And class, let me tell you this: there are these perverts that are watching and recording everything that you say. And your emojis are telling them more about what you're saying than you've already said. So why would you do that? Now, I have a suggestion. So just to confuse these parasites, I think that if you do a search, let's say you're doing a search on something that you think is important, you might want to precede that by doing a search on potatoes, green potatoes, old potatoes, moldy potatoes, pheasants, turkeys, trees, leaves, and then insert, the thing that you want. So that when these parasites are trying to figure out what you're looking at, well, they get confused because you're looking at so many things. And that is exactly why I am dragging my feet, resisting every aspect of this "you will comply." I'm resisting it. So when I have to fill out a tax form, I make up my own. Now, I comply because I know that if I'm one of these guys that says, I'm not going to pay taxes, those guys are going to come and hunt me down and steal my farm. So I comply, but I make up my own forms. And then they come back and they say, no, you're going to have to use this. No, you didn't use our form. I send it back and I say, no, I already submitted this. See, it's already been submitted. I send them back the same form. And if they tell me I didn't sign it right in the box, I'll sign it again, the same way I signed it the first time. Okay, and you know what? They give up.
So my doctor has a little form that I'm supposed to fill out when I come in to see him to determine whether or not I'm losing my mind. They call it, I don't know what that is. It's something about cognitive measuring to see how cognitively aware I am or something. And what I normally do now is I answer, are you this way or that way? And I check all the boxes, and then I write a little note saying, get a grip. It short circuits everything.
Well, okay, I've been asked the same questions. A nurse will say, okay, this is your annual checkup, and, there's these questions.
Yeah, they're checking to see if you're getting senile. Yeah. Why? They'd like to put you on meds and in a corner somewhere so that you're on a recurring prescription that they don't have to bother with, which causes them to still make income. Right, I've had enough of medicine, and now the opiate crisis that's national is depicting exactly what the real problem is.
So the question, do you ever feel angry? That's one of the questions I get asked. Oh, what do you mean? Do I ever feel angry? Well, do you ever feel angry? That's the same question, right? You mean like on April 15th? Tax day?
Who's the president of the United States today? And I will say, get a grip.
Yeah. Well, my father was asked who's the president, and he said Abraham Lincoln, and then he said George Washington, and then the doctor said he's not the president. He said, so my dad said, well, yes, he was. He was a president. So, it depends on, even my dad didn't want to answer these questions. Who's the president? Yeah. He knew who the president was at that time.
And they're set up by some person trying to stall you in the waiting room so that they can take 4 patients per hour rather than 1.
Right. Except in Norm Shealy's practice, they take 1 per hour.
And I'll go down at 10 o'clock, I'm lucky to see my doctor at 11:45.
Right.
I'll sit in that waiting room a good 45 minutes waiting for my appointment. And my doctor is a Seventh-day Adventist. What is wrong with medicine?
Have you ever been fired by a doctor?
He tried to fire me. The last time I went in, your blood pressure is 151 over 86. I'm going to have to put you on meds. And I said, I refuse the meds. I might have to fire you then. I said, cuff me. And I dropped it to 129, just like that. And he had nowhere to go with that. Now, one size does not fit all. We're all different. And it's not about age relative to what the AMA says is the standard blood pressure that you're supposed to have. Further, they always want to cuff you right after you just came in, right out of the streets with traffic.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And they have you walk down the hall, and they're in a hurry, so they transfer their
So they have an excuse to be able to have a leverage on you for not being well.
Mm-hmm. Right. And they always weigh me. Yeah. And I always say the same thing. Is are you checking my IQ? Is that what this display has? Is that what this is for?
And then the dissonance test, to see if you're cognate or you're losing it or you're getting, dementia. I actually like Uncle Fester's response to his new girlfriend. Her name is Dementia. Oh, man. The whole thing's nuts out there. And it's all aimed toward putting you in a box putting you off in a corner with your car, with your medicine, and with your food.
Did I ever tell you that I called Walmart to ask them about applying for a job at a Walmart supercenter? Did I ever tell you that?
No. Oh, yeah. Yes, you did. But go for it. This is a good story. Walmart is now changing. I don't know if you've noticed. Their prices are no longer the cheapest. What they have is very poor fruit and produce. I will not buy my fruit or produce from Walmart anymore because none of it is good.
All right, we'll be right back. We'll give Walmart the credit they deserve when we come back. So one day I had a little spare time, and I thought that I would amuse myself. So I looked up the telephone number of a Walmart supercenter, and I dialed the number, and I got the gal at the control tower. And I said, I'd like to, and this is a little bit of research and a little bit of amusement combined. So I said, I'd like to talk to someone about applying for a job. And she said, well, you'll have to go online or come into the store and use the kiosk and apply there. I said, well, I don't want to do that. I'd like to talk to somebody instead. She said, well, you can't do that. And I said, so is that what you did? You used the online system? And she said, yes. And she said, what you do is you just find an area that you'd like to work in, and you click that box. So you pick the area that interests you. And I said, well, I'm interested in everything. Now I'm paraphrasing because this is, months ago. I like everything. I think I can do every job. I know I can do every job that you have there. I can be a greeter, a cashier. I can be your store accountant. I can be your computer system technician. I can repair or install your microwave communication system. I can be a customer advisor. I can be an automotive mechanic. I can be the guy that mounts the tires, the tire salesman. I think I can do I know I can do every job you have there. I'm your guy. And she said, well, you'll have to go online. And I said, but what about all those boxes? Do I check them all? She said, sure. Check them all. So you want to be a greeter? Check that. If you want to install tires, check that. If you want to install batteries and change oil, check that. If you want to stock shelves, check that. If you want to go in the cooler and take the prepackaged meat out of the cooler and freezer and put it on the in the refrigeration section, you can do that. I said, I'd really like to talk to the store manager. I'm your guy. You don't have to look at anybody else. I'm that guy. I can do it. Whatever the first opening you have is, I can do it. They wouldn't do it. Rick, you cannot go to Walmart and talk to the person who would be interviewing you for a job. You have to go through the computer AI algorithm to see what they think of you, and have a computer make the decision before you get to talk to some protoplasm.
Yeah, I know. It's a new world out there, brave new world. And it's going to go downhill from here.
I can't imagine it getting any better. I'm back to the shoe store. When I was a child, my mom would take me to the shoe store, and there'd be a guy there. And you'd sit down in a chair, and you put your foot up on this sloped stool that he would sit on, and he would feel the width of your foot. You'd put your foot in a tool to measure the length and width, and it would say what size it was, what width it was, and he'd say, okay, well, we've got that. We've got a size 7 and a B, because you need a B width or a C width. Now it's like one wide, one fits all. And when I was at the Sports Authority in Springfield, I tried on a pair of sneakers, and I said, these are for fat people. And my wife looked at me like, you really had to say it that loud? Well, I want to make sure you can hear me. Because my foot was swimming in these things. And they have like one real wide size, fits all, like
By the
extra
way,
wide.
I would be remiss if I did not say this. I am utterly blown away that Greta Thunberg has been Time Magazine's Person of the Year. I would be remiss if I didn't laugh out loud and say, what's that about? This is craziness.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So there's no individual that's more deserving?
No, man. I mean, she's not even, it's her parents. She's not the one doing that. It's her over-eager parents and them trying to make her a movie star and living their life through her.
Yeah,
That's
and how's she gonna?
And it's nuts. Person of the year, and that look on her face. No. And that guy down that became famous because he was a survivor at that shooting in the school in Florida. This is crazy.
Mm-hmm. You're talking about the New York cop?
I'm talking about anything. I mean, the news and media today, and what Time Magazine. I used to have respect for Time Magazine.
Why would you have respect for Time Magazine now? Because
I don't. That's what I'm trying to tell you. It's different.
I know. And if you look at
Magazine used to be something that I respected, like Scientific American.
Yeah.
And Scientific American has gone over the edge. I'm not kidding. I can run example after example of outrageous articles that would never have appeared in the earlier versions. Time Magazine, same thing. Person of the year?
Well, you can judge a magazine by its content, and one of the components of content of a magazine is 50% or greater advertisements. Literally. It didn't used to be like that. The magazine was for information, supported by some ads. Now it's ads greater than 50%. So you know what to do with Time Magazine and all the rest. Don't subscribe. Rick, hey, thanks so much for...
Cosmopolitan used to be something that I enjoy. Better housekeeping.
Right. We're out of time.